I don't know what he's doing. He's actually cool shit. Hello, hello.
Yeah, he's just gonna say hi to everyone, blah blah blah.
Okay, I'll wait for him.
Okay, everyone grab a seat. We're about to start. Okay, are you mic'd up over there? Okay, so it's on to you. So we're going to have our first guest here is going to talk about Claude. He's the Claude rep here at UT, so give us a short update.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. My name's Rohan. I work with Anthropic here at UT. Just bringing Claude on campus. I organize some events around Austin, and I'm here to give you guys what you're excited for: some free Claude credits, free Claude Pro, and some API credits. So the really important form to scan is the one on the left. And if you've already been to the Claude Builder Club, I might have noticed it's been taking some time. It's just been some back and forth with UT. We're hoping to get you guys all the Claude Pro and credits by this Friday. So please be sure to fill out both forms and we can get that to you guys. And I'll send your TAs all these slides later, so don't worry if you don't get it right now. You'll be able to get it later on. So real quick, yeah. So what we provide with this Claude for Education package is essentially what you'd get on the $20 plan. So it's about $25 worth of API credits if you're trying to build any project that uses AI. It's free Claude Pro, so infinite access to Opus 4.6, which is the best model on the market right now, and then Claude Code as well. Yeah, so all for free. Yes, real quick, what does Claude do? Anthropic's really been extending Claude into a lot of verticals. So more than just code and chat, which you might have heard of before. Now Claude's been coming out with Cowork, which does a lot of work just on your desktop. There's Claude in Chrome, which can like do tasks for you, like make slides, answer like LinkedIn connection requests, all that kind of stuff. And they're integrated into like Excel, PowerPoint, Slack, Figma, all the tools that you'd use to do work. So real quick, I just wanted to cover like what exactly is Claude Code in relation to other vibe coding tools. You might have heard that term before. So like vibe coding, you might have heard of Lovable and V0. These are more tools where you don't get to see the code as much. You're kind of giving up control to the AI and letting the vibes take on. But Claude Code, the entire point is that you really have control over what you're building, right? You get to see the code. You can ask Claude to enter like a planning phase where you're kind of talking back and forth with it, just like you might a partner, right? So Anthropic's whole thing is that they want you to keep thinking, and AI should be there as a companion that adds on to your abilities. So yeah, Claude Code, like I just mentioned, not just like a tool where you tell it to build you a SaaS AI app, B2B, and let it run, right? You're trying to talk back and forth with it. So yeah, if you guys are interested in AI and meeting people who are in the like startup space, you guys should definitely show up to Claude Builder Club. We actually have a meeting tonight at 7 p.m. Yeah, so we go over a bunch of kind of technical skills like agent orchestration, MCP stuff inside of Claude Code, and a lot of other stuff like how LLMs really work under the hood and how to build with them. And yeah, feel free to scan this QR code if you're interested in something specific that you've been wanting to learn more about. Like fill it out. I'm the one who gives the lessons at all these meetings, so I'll read every response on the form and talk about that. And then, yeah, I'm excited to introduce this. So Anthropic's having a panel. You guys are actually the first ones to see this. If you guys were interested in like hearing Anthropic talk about their take on how to get into workforce now with AI, yeah, feel free to talk. I believe Boris Cherny, if you guys know who that is, he's the creator of Claude Code. He's going to be talking here as well. So pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, you can find us on Instagram and at texasclaud.org if you're interested in more. So thank you.
Sorry, if you guys are presenting today, could you line up on the right side of the stage, please? Also, like I mentioned last class, we have a new attendance policy. So for all assignments, you've been graded on 90% of it, and the 10% you get in class just from being present. So we're going to take attendance in the beginning of class, if you guys want to fill this out. Okay, we're going to start with demos now.
Okay, let's start with the standard, name, major, what tech you use to build it.
Hi, I'm Noah Phillip. I'm a sophomore studying computer science. To build Nudge, I use Codex. And so the inspiration behind this is my feed knows me very well, but there's some things that it just can't do. A lot of times I find myself watching inspirational videos. I see people doing great things, and I'm like, maybe I can do that. I think to myself, I should go outside and do something. I should open my laptop and actually do something. But all I do is scroll and scroll and keep scrolling. That's the behavior Nudge is built around. Not to completely end your addiction, but to cure the gap between inspiration and action. And so the goal for the MVP is to show that we can inject small interactions into passive scrolling without breaking the entire feed experience.
7 check. Where's the finish? He doesn't need it.
Oh,
You
and
can
he's
just
just
solve
So
the pawn.
first
Yes.
Because
I
the
built
rook is-
like
Knight C6
just
is
like
mate.
Oh
a
my
basic
goodness.
TikTok.
And queen's the pawn as well.
Yes, if king e7, knight c6, you queen.
I'll
This is
mute
all-
it. And so, like, if I find myself watching chess, a lot of times I'll be like, maybe I should start practicing. And so, but then I keep scrolling. But now what Nudge does is it throws in something that allows you to have that interaction, that like practice, without actually getting off of the app. And so you can see there's like an interactive chess puzzle. And what's the best move? Does anybody know what the best move is here? What? Oh, A is the correct move, but I meant like, okay, so here I put 2 puzzles just to kind of show. What's the best move for here? It's white to move. There's a fork. Okay, so the best move right here is this. I won't explain why, but you guys can look at that later if you want. Then I would keep scrolling. Maybe I'm watching fitness now. This is a good one.
Tiene temblando de noche y de día. Tú me hiciste brujería. Que tú me.
And then now I'm feeling motivated to work out. So maybe I can choose to do stretching, strength, or breathing. So I'll choose the strength one. And it sets up a timer. You can do some squats. The module for this one, I couldn't come up with something that could actually verify what you're doing, but it's kind of for the proof of concept. And so I would start it, the timer starts, and I would start squatting.
Your daughter. What do you have to offer? Nothing.
Now I'm watching typing videos.
What's that supposed to be about, baby?
And now the feed is giving me a typing module. And then I start typing. But yeah,
7 check. Where's the
So-
finish? He doesn't need it.
those are all like the videos I have uploaded, and I created modules for each one. If I were to improve this in the future, I would think about like somehow integrating like generative AI to detect what the topic is. I put each video has an associated topic, and I would have it like create the module instead of me creating each one, because that's not sustainable. There's a few different buttons here. Like if you're not really feeling the interaction, you could snooze them, and so
7 check.
then I could just watch
Where's the
videos like
finish?
normal.
He doesn't need it.
And then there's an upload feature, so you can upload your own videos. And
7 check. Where's the
then
finish?
there's like a library, so you could see all of the different videos. And yeah, that's Nudge.
I'm impressed. You guys, can you hear me? Okay. I'm impressed. It's really creative. Show of hands. Who thought about doing a nudge out here? Does anyone think that they would, interrupt their doom scrolling with a nudge? Okay. The squatting one, was that the one you thought the most? Yeah. No, they were really creative, and I liked how you got the actual nudges. Those were working behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
The chess.
Everything
It was a
worked.
little okay. Everything worked. Yeah. Really cool. And then you said on the last bit you would be, if you were going to enhance it, you would do some AI detection maybe of the subject matter, and then you would
Exactly.
create nudges based on what it was picking up.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
What
Yeah.
did you use to build this?
I use Codex. Yeah.
The whole thing Codex?
The entire thing Codex, yeah.
How did you find it?
Like
The Codex. How did it
yeah.
go?
It was good. Before I used Codex, each time I kind of like refined my prompt using ChatGPT, and so like that kind of back and forth process, I find like Codex always does exactly what I want.
Interesting. Do you think it keeps it cleaner because you're not trying to iterate on the prompt?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Did you give the video? How did you get the videos?
Yeah, I just downloaded like 9 different TikTok videos and uploaded them myself. Yeah.
Yeah, really good demo. It came together.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Nicely done. Right. You're going to need to take a break from the nudges at some point. Yeah, you get too many nudges.
Okay, welcome to Ascend. My name is Gustavo. I'm a sophomore studying computer science here at UT. Ascend is a booking platform for air travel. It is meant for individuals in big cities, where there's a lot of traffic. That's like the main goal. So Ascend just kind of takes Uber and makes it for helicopters. Is kind of my idea. The idea behind it is imagine you are a consultant or an investment banker, let's say at Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs headquarters in Manhattan is actually on the Jersey side of the Hudson. And so imagine you fly in, you're staying in Manhattan itself, and you have a big deal that you're trying to close that morning, and you're running late. Well, everyone knows how New York traffic is. It takes 2 hours to get maybe from the New York side to the Jersey side, and you have an actual deal on the line. And so that's the idea behind Ascend. It provides more reliable transportation in major cities at a higher cost, but for individuals who are willing to do that for the time saving. So getting into our demo here, the idea is pretty simple. Skip traffic, arrive in minutes. So as you can see here, this is kind of our landing page here. You can see some of the popular routes. So we're going to go in and book a flight. We can pick our locations. So let's say we're going to go from downtown Manhattan, let's say, for example, to the JFK airport. Let's say we're going today. We can search flights, and we can see at what time works for us. And then let's say we want to go at 8 a.m. Then you can see here, it's a door-to-door pickup, so you can put your address, picks you up, takes you to the helipad, and then transfers you to your final location. You can see for how many people you need to book the flight for. And yeah, that's the idea behind it. It tells you how much time you'd approximately save by doing this. Yeah, and everything's integrated for the payment and everything like that. I actually can show you an iteration that I have. And this is kind of one of the biggest, one of the bigger improvements that I had. Originally, there was no data available for the flights themselves, which is actually obviously a pretty big deal. You can't really test how well it works without the data. So I used Claude Code to build this. So I prompted Claude to create me some sample data, and that's what I used for the final version, where you can actually use it all. Yeah, if I had more time, I'd probably make this part actually like work. I don't have any information like regarding the actual like door-to-door like pickup part, so I'd probably want to integrate information like that so you can actually see like what the route would be in real time to see like how much time instead of just an estimate you would actually save. And yeah, that's what I got for you.
That's what I was going to ask you. So that's just plug for now.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you think would it be really a benefit for the user if you had booked the black car for them also, or is that
Yeah, I mean, the idea is to just to make it easier for them, so we could book like all of it for them, so they just kind
Oh,
of.
you would arrange the black car pickup
Yeah,
and
everything. Yeah. It's a door-to-door service.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Pretty cool. What were some of the, nice job. It looks really intuitive and easy to use. What were some of the harder challenges of getting it together?
To be honest, I was having a really rough time with the UI at the beginning, and that's kind of something that I've noticed. I'd say using Claude Code throughout like the other projects that we've worked on is that there's kind of like a default almost like UI that it wants to go towards, and like I don't know, some of them like look like really similar when you do that, and so I kind of wanted to make it like a little bit more interesting, a little different. So that took some time to work on itself. Yeah, so cleaning up the UI was probably what took me the longest time, to be honest. But yeah,
Nicely done.
Cloud Code was pretty good.
It's a really intuitive story. The problem, you really outlined the problem case is very relatable.
Yeah, I guess the goal of the MVP itself would just be to see if enough users actually, that's like a big enough problem for people. Whether that reliable time saving is worth the extra cost for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How would you go about integrating it with like the actual helicopter service? Like, would you partner with existing helicopter services, or would you somehow like build that out? Like, how far do you go?
I'm just gonna say yes to that one right now. I'm just gonna say yes. Yeah. It's at some point we want to vertically integrate everything. We can just fucking everything. We can just have our own helicopter service too. Yeah.
Personal drone.
Yeah,
So
something like that.
when you were refining the UI, how did you go about that?
I gave it some examples. I don't really remember right now what examples I had given it, but I gave it some examples of some websites that I liked that had some cleaner UIs, just so it would go away from like this default kind of that I've kind of seen that it tends to go towards.
Yeah, Anthropic does have a blog post on how to get away from the average look that normally comes out, because it is a normal topic like that, so you can go check that out. I think one of the other interesting things, although it comes out kind of generic, often the mobile site falls out too. So it's, you might want to look at that too, you might be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, it looks really good. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Anything else? Good. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Maddie. I'm in business honors, and I'm a sophomore. And my app is called Style Vault, and this is for more girls that are looking for inspiration in fashion, that just want to scroll and look to see what their favorite content creators are wearing, but have easy links, and they can style it by price point and what they see other people wearing. So basically, they go into the app, and you can like it, and let's say that you want to shop the links, and then you would go to the link, and it connects you to the website, and it also includes the price and all the other accessories that the creator wants to link. This is a lot better than most creators have, like like to know it, Shop Mice, but that's all over the place, and you can never find the exact link. So then you're scrolling, and it does it for all of them, and it's easy to share with your friends, and you can explore your favorite creators, and you can follow people, and you can go to their page, and it's the same thing like TikTok. You're just shopping and seeing what they have. But there's also a Style AI feature, so you can ask it like what's in style in spring. Yeah. And it'll think about it, and it'll tell you like what's in sale, give you some links, and same thing, it's clicked to other ideas. And this is just an easy device for people to just see what other people are wearing and connect it. I did this through Replit, and I had some trouble at first because of running out of credits, but whenever I worked with ChatGPT to make everything more concise, it all came together. And I really wanted it to have this AI feature so that it also works as an AI to just connect ideas and different pieces together instead of just being able to see like what's in front of you. Thank you.
Nice. Nicely done. Can you explain more about how it goes from the image or the post to the
link?
shot? Yeah, how does that all tie together?
You go to the
and who does it?
shop feature and AI. I integrated an AI to find the link. Well, the creator would upload it, and then
Do they have to provide the?
Yes,
does the creator
they
have
would
to
be like,
provide
this is
the
from
items?
like Reformation, or this piece is from Everlane, and then it connects you to the exact piece. And if it's sold out like this, it
Yeah.
gives you different examples of them.
Got it.
And it has like all, and like the creator could do like jewelry or whatever, and just have them all connected on one place.
Got it. Nice.
So how do you do like the spring advice? The AIs have been trained in the past.
Yes.
So are you putting some information into the prompt?
So
or-
I had put more information, and I'd been like, what's trending this spring, like dresses, and it would give it. So right now it's just what I had uploaded, but I didn't really upload any of this information. It did it itself through connecting it to the internet and finding that out.
Cool.
Yeah.
What did you learn from the? You said the ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That tune-up helped. What else could you share with the group about working your way through it and what you learned?
It just like took a while to like make sure that the phrasing was right, so I didn't use up all my credits super fast. Because at first a few weeks ago I tried to use it and I used up all my credits instantly. So then it had been a month, so then I got to redo it and just really like work on like refining it multiple times, like not just once, like multiple times, and be like, what would these issues be? And then changing the prompt to be super concise. And then I had extra credits at the end, and I just made it go through everything and make sure everything was working.
Cool.
Yeah.
Turned out well.
Okay. Thank
So are you
you.
going to actually launch this business in real life?
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Nicely done. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Decca. I'm a third-year computer science major, and my demo here is Stop to Stop, which I made using Google Stitch as well as Google AI Studio. So my demo is catered towards public transport users, and as college students, we know that something that might be a 7-minute drive away can easily be a half-an-hour drive away. But for our suburban friends, the nearest bus stop can easily be 10 minutes or sometimes even 15-minute walk. So Stop to Stop is here to add an intermediary step to the public transport route to show that public transport can be so much more of an enabler if we just have a little bit of communal support. So here I'm going to walk you through a new user kind of workflow. So I'm going to create my account. We're just going to say that we're John Doe with a fake email. Or actually, I think it's autofilled. Yeah, I'll just use mine. So our sign up was successful, and we're going to go ahead and log in. Okay, so I used the wrong password. Give me 1 second.
This is very realistic.
Yeah. Ugh. I'll just use a different name. Bear with me. Meanwhile, let me tell you a little bit more about how I ended up making this. So as I said, I used Google Stitch as well as AI Studio, which were two new tools that I had never used before. Specifically, I learned a lot about kind of integrating, kind of compartmentalizing my project before attacking the problem. So really making sure that, really making sure that I knew which agent was for what purpose. Okay, praying this works. Oh my God. Okay.
That1.com.
That one? Okay. Guys, I swear this works. Okay, there we go.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let me walk you through what's going on here. So here we have some real life bus stops in an Austin suburban neighborhood, namely Westlake Hills. And on the left, we have a list of shuttles going on from stop to stop. As the name implies, we have shuttle number 42 at Toyota Sienna going towards Westlake High. And these are real stops, by the way. And along the way, you'll see these little gray dots. We'll click on these. The gray dots represent the actual places where the passengers would go to be picked up by these drivers. So these drivers are cycling between these bus stops, picking up drivers along the way, and dropping them off at whatever stop they're trying to go to. So let's say I wanted to hop on shuttle number 42. So I would just click request pickup. This is the point where I would walk over to the stop and then get picked up, get dropped off, walk off, bada bing, bada boom. An iteration I did have to this is the search engine right here, find station. So let's say there was a specific station that I wanted to kind of go to. So say I want to go to Westlake High. And as I'm typing this, you'll see it kind of filters on its own. So really modeling that modern GPS system. Another iteration I had is this plan trip feature right here. So let's say I have a specific destination in mind, but I don't really know how to get there. So for example, let's say I want to go to Walmart. I'm going to hit find route. And on the back end, what's happening here is there are AI prompts going between Gemini and the local interface, and it's sharing my local dictionary of stops and the shuttles to generate me a custom route, which takes me to Walmart. So zooming out here, you'll see that we start at my location, which is this blue dot here. Once again, this is mock data, not real data, except for the stops, that's real. We're gonna hop on shuttle number 18, arriving in about 2 minutes, get off at Rollingwood Park, and go straight to the Walmart Supercenter. Something that I would have worked on if I had more time is, as you can see, this red line is kind of funky, right? It's going through impassable objects. It's not really mimicking the path of the bus. And I found that really hard, actually. If you look closely, even for these drivers, no matter how much I insisted to the AI, it kind of always goes through, this is a river right here. It's going through this river to get to this bus stop. So, are there any questions I can answer for y'all?
So I know you didn't intend the beginning to be like that sort of hard security point, but my favorite part about the demo was that like the security is like really tight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, thank you.
I was wondering, what was your favorite part in like making this demo?
My favorite part would definitely be the animations. Honestly, I would like a lot more animations. I think animations are a great user engagement model. Just seeing things moving around makes you feel a lot more involved in the process, as well as make you feel like you're a part of something. All the more empowerment to public transport.
I think you did a nice job of, bumps in your demo is very realistic scenario, and you played through the dialogue to keep users engaged. So that's hard, but you did a nice job keeping things moving.
Thank you.
Someone who hasn't used Google Stitch before, can you talk about what was the use case, what did you like about using it?
Yeah, so I thought initially that Google Stitch was going to handle like the entire coding part as well, but I was wrong. Google Stitch is a lot more for user interfaces to generate the initial images that you can then forward to a model. So you wanted like what the workflow was like, right? So I started off with simple prompt. I told it that my favorite color was blue, and I also told it that I wanted that this was going to be catered towards public transport users. So making sure that you're telling your AI model to keep its emojis or its creations very intuitive, so that users don't have to go with a lot of onboarding. Yeah.
So what are the shuttles that are being used? Are those like people signing up to shuttle?
Yeah. Yeah, so these are your normal Uber drivers. So there would be in the in the actual deployed version, there would be a interface for the drivers to sign up their car, get verified, and then we would actually assign the drivers a route. So, so they would just be cycling back and forth. Mhm.
Absolutely, I like the idea of like subsidizing public transport, kind of like in the private.
Yeah. Yeah. I love buses. Yes.
Would this be like, would you have to pay for the shuttle to the bus, or have you thought about like how that would work with pricing that?
Yeah, I'm thinking about a monthly subscription model. I do want to, because Uber prices are crazy these days. I do want to move away from the model of getting charged per trip. So the drivers would be paid on an hourly basis, and the users would be charged on a monthly basis. Mhm. Alrighty, well, thank you so much.
Hey, I'm Nathan. I'm a junior studying CS, and my product is called DormDash. So obviously a lot of students at UT Austin need a lot of like services to be done, whether that's like moving in, getting groceries, or even just going to the airport. And so a lot of these services are done by a lot of different students. And so there's a gap in the efficiency that can be made. So instead of just one person going to HEB and getting groceries for themselves, they can take along a few different people from their dorm or something. So a few services kind of already do this. So like, for example, Uber, or more informally, or informally, like Reddit or GroupMe, you can organize these kind of get-togethers and be able to like do these services, go get groceries together, and organize all that. But it's not streamlined, right? There's no kind of platform that lets you kind of determine, okay, like how would you split up payments, or how would you kind of like organize where to meet and when. And so DormDash is kind of aiming to solve that. It's essentially a services platform, a pure services platform for the student community, because inherently students trust other students more than they trust strangers. Obviously this is for not getting scammed, and this is for your physical safety, right? So imagine on paper, Uber kind of looks a bit scary because you're getting into a stranger's car and going somewhere, right? And you're kind of trusting them to do that. With students, you can kind of imagine you guys are going through the same life experience. You guys have the same, I guess, kind of goals in mind. So yeah, you can trust students more. So how this platform kind of works is you can log in with your .edu email. So pretty much what this does is it'll sign you in, and on the back end, it'll verify you with third-party services that verify you're a student. So imagine like Claude also verifies that you're a student. This would hit the same API endpoints to make sure you're not a wrong, or you're a false like EDU user. And so here you can see your dashboard. You can see your listings and your purchases. So when you go to browse, you can see all the different listings of other students who are offering help or needing help. So if somebody is like moving in and they need help, and they could, you know, pay you like $10 to do that, then if you have some free time, you can go ahead and accept that offer and actually go help them. So this is good because obviously for students, you can generate a side income with a lot of like the free time that you might have. And this could make you a lot more money compared to like working retail or working in a restaurant, because you can get as many listings as you want with however much time you have. So for example, I'll just click on this listing. So this person needs help moving out, and they're willing to pay $60, which is, it might be a lot. So I can offer to help. And so one thing about this is the first iteration was kind of like, okay, the user would kind of set one price and it would be take it or leave it. But on the second iteration, that kind of like didn't really make sense to me, because you want to negotiate to a fair price. And so I can offer, okay, how about you give me like $80 to do this for you? and then I can submit this response. So there's like a negotiating factor. You can offer these prices, or you can just straight up message the requester. And you could be like, hey, like I don't really agree with this price. I'd be willing to do it for like more expensive price. And so you can also create your own listing. Let's say going to the airport. And so take me there. And then there's a few categories that you could filter by just for convenience. And then I'll pay $20 to actually go there. So I'm requesting help. And then you can kind of like select your day. 2026. And then pick me up from Jester. So once you create this service, it will be posted, and then once you go to browse, other users or other students can be able to take you up on this, and you'll be able to, do all your services for relatively cheap, and also help out other students. If I had more time, I'd probably implement a more robust like payment system. So currently, there's like all the payments is mocked out. We would use like Venmo or so like Stripe to facilitate these payments. But yeah, thank you.
So what didn't work when you were trying to build this?
Well, the first thing was honestly payments, because I did try to implement like Stripe, but a lot of it relied on like dependencies, because I wanted to use like a backend like Supabase in order to facilitate these payments. But just going through all the documentation, it was a bit hard to fully implement this without, I guess, a lot of overhead, I would say.
Yeah, Stripe, they started by saying, oh, you implement one line of code and you have payment processing, and sort of getting that into your website is easy, but there is a lot of configuration on the back end that's not trivial, that's for sure.
I think one alternative I was thinking of using was crypto, but I didn't know if that would be like too hard to, or like too much friction for onboarding students.
Right, and is your idea to facilitate the payment so that you get a cut?
Yeah, I mean, ideally
versus just having, at the end of the transaction, they could pay each other on Venmo.
I mean, yeah, that's one thing that it's like that students can bypass. I guess once we have a system where it's like all in one, they're kind of paying that convenience fee of like, okay, they could just pay through the app, like do their negotiating, and then we would take like a percentage cut of that. And I think that would be much like cheaper than Uber, so that would, attract a lot of students or users.
Right.
So I think if we're just talking a demo, it's okay you didn't implement the payments, because I believe that you can if we were actually going to roll something out. I think the important part is like when you talk through it, like what the unique aspect of it all is, and like are there any special payment kind of issues because it's student to student. So I think you can just, during the demo, you can just talk about it and be fine, and focus the features on the unique features, because I believe you can eventually get Stripe to work.
Probably not entirely relevant to this demo, but you have to be careful with stuff like that because there's all sorts of chargeback problems and other reciprocal payment processing problems that make going from this to a fully live functioning service where you process payments a significant, non-trivial step up in complexity. But yeah, I think this is great for a demo, but as you guys think about taking these from eventually to some live thing, payments are a much bigger level of pain than anyone ever assumes they are, which is why there's so many fintech companies.
I particularly like this layout of this board. These are not easy necessarily. How did you get to this design? Did you go through several iterations to get here? Because it is really, I think it's intuitive and
yeah. I guess
helpful.
like the main thing was obviously having it be easy to use, just mimicking like what has worked in the past. So using like inspiration from eBay or inspiration from like even just YouTube, just showing everything in like a card-like fashion. but
Mhm.
also making it minimalistic so that there's not too many like colors or too many UI components that's kind of like distracting.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
clean and shows you. It's pretty easy to see what the offers are, and it's like a friendly. By making it lightweight, it I think engenders trust. It's good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Versus demos. Got it. Yeah.
Hello. My name's Carson Stark. I'm a senior computer science major. This is not related to Uber or TikTok. I just went rogue for this one. I couldn't really think of an idea, but kudos to all of you for thinking of cool stuff. This was just something that I wanted to build, and I think could be a business if it helps other people, but it was really a tool for me. So I used mainly Cursor to build it also. So anytime you're writing something, this is called Penman, it always, for me at least, whether it's a job application or an email or an assignment, I spend a lot of time like generating the perfect prose because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I'm just a slow writer. And sometimes also it takes me a long time to gather my thoughts before I've started writing. So this is designed to help with both of those. It's basically like a vibe writing tool. There's a lot of other products that do kind of the same thing. Like a lot of people are probably thinking, why don't you just use ChatGPT? Well, I do, but then like you're stuck copying and pasting between Google Docs and ChatGPT, and take one section, put it in there, take it over to ChatGPT, ask it to revise it. You don't like what it gives you, so you take like a couple sentences and put it back, and it's just kind of a mess. And they have a Canvas tool as well, which is kind of like what mine will be. But there's a couple things I really don't like about it. Like it's not polished for writing. So I really wanted this to be conversation first was another thing. So I want to just talk to like an interviewer, and I want it to pull out the ideas for me to help me gather my thoughts and then write it for me. Because a lot of like ChatGPT, if you just ask it to fill in this job application, it doesn't know anything about you unless your memories are really good. So it's just going to make things up is what it does. But this can like interview you and gather the context it needs before it writes. So after all that talk, hopefully it works properly. Hi there. Can you help me generate a short story? Oh, looks like we're muted. I had a feeling this was going to be a problem.
Okay.
Nope, don't want that. Okay. Well, here, I'm going to put the audio to out of my laptop. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How
Okay.
can I assist you today?
I think y'all can hear that reasonably well. Can you help me write a sci-fi short story?
Absolutely. I'd love to help with that. Do you have any specific ideas or themes in mind for your sci-fi short story? Or should we brainstorm some
Let's write it about AI.
Great choice. AI offers a lot of creative possibilities in sci-fi. Would you like the story to be set in
I want it to be a futuristic dystopia.
a futuristic dystopia with AI sounds intriguing. What kind of role does AI play in this world? Is it controlling society? Or perhaps it's misunderstood by humans?
Actually, I changed my mind. Let's make it an AI utopia where it does everyone's work and everyone finds meaning in other places.
That sounds like a refreshing and optimistic twist.
All right, go ahead and write it for me.
Perfect. I have a good sense of what you want to say. I will generate your draft now.
Go ahead. May actually be a long draft, as that might be the problem.
Oh.
Let's see what happens when I do this. Oh, okay. Well, let me just, I'll have it generated in a second. But basically, I built Google Docs, so it has all your standard text formatting features. So that was just the kind of like initial stage. You can jump straight into a blank document if you would like. You can do bulleted lists and all that as well. So it's like all the features you know and love from Google Docs. Let me try and tell it to write it here. So you'll see, okay, there it goes. We've got a conversation panel. So the main differences from Google Docs is there's an AI assistant right off to the side. So it's basically copied from something like Cursor, where you have a canvas, and then the AI assistant next to you can make any changes. It can insert things or remove them. And then in the right side, you have a panel where it gives you like the pop-ups for the changes that it's made. Okay, it's really giving us a good story here. Hopefully it's almost done.
You're burning up your credits.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't want a whole book. I wonder if I cancel it, if it'll break it. Uh-oh. Okay, well, forget about that short story. I'll go into a different one. So another cool thing is I basically made like Grammarly on steroids. So on the right side panel, there's a suggestions panel, which we should see will generate basically like Grammarly style revision updates. And then the other thing you can do is dump something into the chat and say like, revise this. And then it'll make the edit for you in the canvas right there, and then you can approve it. I'm not sure why suggestions aren't working, because they were just working. Yay, okay. So you can see it gives you like different suggestions by topic, like clarity, grammar, tone, and then if you like highlight over it, it'll give you an edit, or you can press fix in chat. And another cool thing that I added later is you can make this highly customizable because it's all like straight from the AI. So, and that's something like Grammarly can't do. So if you wanted to, you can add a category for like cringe and then put like what your definition of cringe is, and then it'll constantly be searching for that and highlighting it as you're writing. Okay, so that is the whole demo. Unfortunately, we did not get the sci-fi short story written, but that's okay. Any questions?
What did you say you built this in?
Cursor.
And Cursor did the UI work too?
Yeah, but I mean, it was very painful. I mean, every time I do a UI, I end up like prompting it for every button and stuff. I'm just patient and put a lot of time into it. So.
all the buttons across the top for the editor, you had to prompt it to.
Well, no, I like
Oh.
start by saying to do a toolbar, but then I'm like, this doesn't look centered, so fix the margin there, and the panels aren't lined up vertically, and change the color of the top heading to be darker, like that level of granularity.
I think you're going after a real problem. I've felt this one a lot. The formatting in Canvas is really challenging to get it into a Google Doc. Everything ends up, the formatting is all messed up. You didn't ask it to get rid of the M dash. You know, that's the
No.
dead giveaway. You did it in AI. But
Put that in the system prompt.
yeah, tell us about how did you set this up to do the back and forth with the user on what they want to create?
That was actually one of the easiest parts. There's a OpenAI API called the Real-Time API, and it's basically what they use in ChatGPT's voice mode. The one problem with it is it's more dumb than the bigger models, so trying to get it to also call tools and do good writing was difficult. I also thought about doing like a background agent, so one would be talking to you, and one would be like interviewing you, and one was taking notes at the same time on the canvas. But that was really complicated, and there's not too much use for it because the AI has enough context stored that it can just write the draft when you're done talking to it. But I had a vision of like talking on the phone in the car, and you have an interviewer, and it's like interviewing you about your life to write your memoir in the car, something like that.
Right.
Like
right.
an AI ghostwriter almost.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I was going to say this is really a comment for everyone. You're still telling a story, even when you're demoing. You're telling a story, just like the pitch is telling a story, and you want to end on a note which recaps why it's great, what we covered, and transfers that excitement, into the audience about the product. So the ending should be on a high note.
Yeah, and I'll give the comment that I think it was a very strong beginning because you're obviously talking about something you're passionate about, and that's the advantage of working with your own idea. I mean, towards the middle, I wasn't quite sure, like, what the thing you're showing that the other AIs can't do. And I think this is a hard thing to demo in that case, but like telling a story like I tried to do this and this doesn't work and here's what you need. I wasn't sure what I was looking for that was going to be the clearly differentiating factor. Yep.
So to help you address questions like that, you can do, I think, direct. So I spent a lot of time on AI assisted writing stuff, so I live pretty deeply in this category. Like Google Docs, until very recently, and even now it doesn't do everything I would want, will not directly edit your document. So like if you paste a markdown document into Google Docs, you'll get a really crappy table. So then you got to like cut the table back into the AI box, get the thing, and then so it's like the direct interaction between the chat and the editor is actually is a pretty valuable sort of use case that can help a lot. And then like that I think I think talking to some of those points might address your concerns, because I do think they're legit. I probably wouldn't spend as much time talking about the Grammarly part, although maybe highlight just the cringe thing. I think is like a really good call out to how you're different. But I think most people sort of assume that if you have any word processor looking thing, you're going to get spelling and grammar kind of somehow magically.
What was it just doing? Were those the suggestions that fired off?
I chose not to show this because I didn't get it working, but I was seeing if it, at some point it was working. I told it to add a table because he was talking about how like Gemini doesn't do that. And then it added a bunch of junk in the document. But yeah, I haven't done too much experimenting with it. There's a lot of bugs. Like it was super hard getting the replacement inside the doc working. Maybe that's why Gemini hasn't done it, because the doc is HTML and the agent likes to output Markdown, so you have to do a conversion, and then you've got to match the replacements somehow. So it's difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you tested how this output fares against AI writing checkers?
Oh, no. I mean, I probably not very well unless you like prompt it strongly to do what. I mean, maybe if you're like really putting in your own ideas and using the chat thing, you can also talk to it here, by the way. But if you're like really using all your own ideas, maybe it does better. All right, thank you.
Okay. Let's get this working here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's coming. So for the last few weeks, you've been given topics, and we've been doing pitches and demos on products. Okay, and the purpose of this is to get everyone familiar with the tools, understand how it all works, kind of get the base rules. So now going forward, you're to go and pitch your own idea. Okay, and so ideas are hard, but it's basically the same rules as before. So hopefully you have a pretty good idea of what you can build now with the tools. And so it's all going to be graded the same way. It's all the same kind of game plan. Okay, so that's what's coming forward. So then just a few more things. So we do this iteration, I think, 6 times. At the very end, there's a final. And so the difference between the pitches that we've been doing and the final we're working up to is that we're currently doing product pitches for ideas. And the final is going to be a company pitch. So it's going to answer additional questions like, what's the market? How am I going to sell it? Beyond just the basic product. Okay. And in order to prepare for that, over the next few weeks, we're going to have mentors in that are going to talk about individually aspects of what is in an investor pitch deck, like how do you do the market analysis. So we're going to go through all the topics so you'll have all the information you'll need to put into your final presentation. Okay, so that's the game plan going forward. So we're going to start things off here with Carrie. So Carrie, do you want to wander up here? So Carrie's our first mentor victim. So she's going to come and tell her story on where she started too. She's an engineer from MIT, went off and got an MBA, started 3 companies, or if we even count 4, 3 or 4. It gets hard to keep track of. Did a lot of education stuff here in Austin, is an avid mentor at Capital Factory. So she's really balanced the startup and the teaching and the mentorship. And so she's going to tell her story, and then she's going to share one of her pitch decks and kind of talk through what is in one of these pitch decks, for pitching a whole company, and give everyone an overview. That's what we're going to do for the second half. And if we have time for the end, we'll break up into some groups and talk with the mentors and go into a little more detail. So Carrie?
All right. Thanks, Carrie.
Hello. So I heard that most of you are in computer science here. Show of hands, how many of you are computer science or engineering majors? Oh, good. Okay, most of you. Wow, great. Okay. Well, I'm really excited you're here. And as a fellow recovering engineer, you're probably learning already in class that pitching a company is very different than just building a product. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about that today. But Eric asked me to start by telling you a little bit about my journey as an entrepreneur. I started out, I went to MIT, I got a mechanical engineering degree in '97, and I moved to Silicon Valley in 1997. I started out working at a company called Silicon Graphics, which most of you probably haven't heard of. It was very popular. It was a very famous company back in the 90s. If you ever saw the movie Jurassic Park, they made the breakthrough in graphics chips and graphics servers that allowed the special effects in that movie to happen. And so it was a very cool company. It was my dream company to work for all through college. They were located where the Google headquarters is now, so it was a fun place to work. I started out there as a thermal engineer, so I designed heat sinks and airflow paths through graphics servers so that they wouldn't overheat. And that was a really fun job for a couple of years, but it was very much I was definitely a small cog in a big machine. And I was always really excited about looking at problems at a system level and working on bigger problems. So I went back to Stanford Extension School and started taking classes in software development. It was the late 90s. Everybody was moving into software. There weren't great hardware jobs. That pendulum is swinging again, which I'm glad to see because I love hardware, as you'll see in a few minutes. But at the time, all the cool jobs were in software. And so I started out, and I'll tell you one of my favorite failure stories. I was telling Eric we should tell failure stories. So I took this class, Intro to C Programming at Stanford. I got my first assignment back. The instructor was a grad student at Stanford. Her name was Marissa Meyer. Do any of you know who she is? Yeah, Marissa Meyer. Yeah, she was the CEO of Yahoo. And so at the time, so I got my paper back. And on my paper, she had written, "See me after class." And she said, so I work for this little startup. It's called Google. It's kind of like Alta Vista, if you know what that is. They were fewer than 50 people at the time. And she said, "We're looking for female programmers. You should apply." And so I called my dad, who is a career Marine Corps pilot, not a startup guy. And I said, "Dad, I have a job offer to go to Cisco and write software in the sales organization, or to go to this little startup called Google." And my dad said, "Go take the secure job at the big company. You'll never regret that." So that was, yeah. So that was my first big startup failure. But, you know, I sallied forth and at least learned how to write Perl CGIs at Cisco. That's been really useful. So I worked there for a while, and then I went to work for a startup. The startup I went to work for, I was employee number 6. It was a consumer electronics startup that was working on a set-top box to manage all of your home media. At the time, this was early 2000s. This was kind of a big deal. You know, people had all these Napster files and digital photos and all this media that they needed to manage, and we didn't have great devices to manage them. So this was a set-top box that would let you sit on your couch and use a remote control to look through all your photos. And I went in initially to write one small piece of it, which was a web user interface to this, so that you could sit on your couch with your laptop and manage your files with a real keyboard. But it turned out I love startups. So I went in, and startups, as many of you probably know now, are consistently resource constrained. Nobody ever has enough money or enough time. So I went in to write this little piece of the product, but I loved it, and I started getting involved in all sorts of things, and I stayed late, and I got there early and was there on weekends. This was before I had kids. And so eventually we were running out of money, and the CEO, we had won all these awards. We were in Time Magazine. We were going to be a big, huge thing. And our investors, the venture capital firm that was backing us, wanted us to license our software to other companies, didn't want us to try to build a consumer brand. And they were probably right. You know, building a consumer brand, it takes about $1 billion. It's really hard. If any of you are thinking about doing a consumer company, come and talk to me later, and I'll try to talk you into selling to businesses instead. But it's very hard to build a consumer brand. But our CEO really had a passion. He wanted to be a product company. So the venture capital firm said, "Okay, well, we're not going to give you your next round of funding until you prove you can do that. So you guys need to do a beta run and actually build some hardware and distribute it to users." Well, we didn't have any money to design and build hardware at that point. So the CEO said, "Well, wait, you're a mechanical engineer, right? So what if we just buy one CAD license, and you design us a custom bezel for a set-top box, and we'll do a beta run." So we did that. We did the world's scrappiest set-top box design. So I got to design a custom bezel. We went to a sheet metal fabricator and had a custom chassis made out of like bent sheet metal. It was really simple. And then we just used a Linux motherboard and basically built a PC and made it look like a set-top box. And that was our prototype. This was 2002, I want to say. And then we assembled 35 of them, you know, on the floor of our office with screwdrivers and everything, and distributed them to our friends and family. And that's how we landed our next round of funding. So at that point, I was working on enough aspects of the project that a mentor of mine approached me and said, "You know, you really should go get an MBA and you should become a product manager." And I had no idea what a product manager was. Does anyone know what a product manager is? Raise your hand. want to say? I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you. No.
They do a lot of the organization in teams. I hear the word agile workflow thrown around a lot.
Good, good.
A lot of organization just to make sure people are on top of their tasks.
Yeah, a product manager is like in a bigger tech company, it's a really fun job, and it's a great career path, especially for those of you that are technical but really want to get involved in making products. In bigger companies, they're kind of the CEO of the product. You know, there's a CEO of the whole company, but somebody has to sit and be responsible for the profitability of this one product. You know, what are we building, on what time frame, who are we selling to, what's the pricing, and they sit in between the business teams and the engineering teams to kind of pull all of that together. So that's what being a product manager is, and it requires skills in a lot of areas, and it's a great way to grow in the industry and end up in a leadership role later if that's a goal that you have. But I didn't know what it was at the time, and I was very fortunate that I had mentors who pulled me in that way. And so that's what I did. That startup ran out of money. I ended up moving to a partner company that I moved into consumer semiconductor, and I worked in consumer semiconductor for about 10 years. First in strategic marketing and in product marketing. So marketing at a semiconductor company is software. I don't know if that makes sense to all of you, but that's essentially what our teams would do. I worked for 2 mid-sized semiconductor companies that made audio and video decoders that were used in Blu-ray players and connected TVs, and we sold chips to Apple for Apple TV and to all of the big consumer electronics OEMs, Sony and Samsung and LG and Panasonic. And what my teams would do was build out the software that ran on those platforms to basically explain to the OEM what they could do with the chip, right? And that was really a fun time to work in the consumer electronics industry. So the next big thing that happened to me that was an inflection point for me was, I guess about 2008 timeframe. Our CEO was looking at the next chip that we were going to build, and he was really excited about building a chip for 3D TV. Have any of you ever seen a 3D TV? Did you ever grow up with one? No. Eric, the guy who worked in semiconductors, had a 3D TV. Doesn't have one, but you saw one. You saw one. He probably saw one at CES. We all did that one year. It was another thing, and this would be a whole fun class to do sometime, is just talk about all the things that were supposed to be big that didn't happen. But in 2008, I was building a little confidence, and I was sort of mid-career at that point, and I said to our CEO, I don't know if 3D TV is going to happen. Like we've done this research, we've done all this, we've done focus groups with consumers, and we've learned that they just don't, nobody's going to wear glasses to watch TV in their house. It's not going to happen. But instead, what I really think, ABC.com just launched, and they're playing their TV shows the day after they're on TV. And young people more and more are not paying for cable, and I think we should build out our Blu-ray players so that you can watch streaming content from all these other sources and go away from 3D TV. And I pitched our CEO on that, and he was very reluctant because it meant, and this was another good consumer lesson for me, it was by default a much lower quality product. The video stuttered, the audio was terrible. At the time, you could watch some TV shows, but not many, and it was like watching it on a laptop, and it was really hard to see what streaming TV would become. Whereas, 3D TV was this amazing immersive experience, and there was a real fear that consumers, it's a longer story for another class, but there was a real fear that consumers were going to value quality, and we were going to end up being sort of the cut rate, low quality provider of technology in this area. But as it turned out, that was a good bet, and it helped turn us from the number 3 provider of this semiconductor technology to the number 2 provider, which is a big deal in semiconductor because it can usually only support 2 or 3 competitors in any kind of segment. And that CEO ended up paying for me to go get my MBA, which is what launched me on the path I'm on. So anyway, kind of accelerating the story, I loved doing that. I loved working in semiconductor. It was very fulfilling. It was a very strategic role. It's a very cool industry. Another great place to cut your teeth if you're thinking about going into the tech industry in general is to go to one of the semiconductor providers. But the customers are in Asia, and a lot of the partners are in Asia, and my bosses were in Europe, and so it was a lot of early mornings and late nights. And so at that point, I was starting to have my kids. I have two sons who are now your age, and one is 20 and one is 16. And when I was, after I had my son, it wasn't a conducive lifestyle, to the lifestyle I wanted to be living. And at the time, I was living in Santa Cruz, California, which is a beautiful beach town. And my husband and I talked about moving, but my husband surfs, and so it was really hard to get him out of this beach town. And so that's honestly the reason why I started my first company, is because I wanted to be closer to my kids during the day, and I didn't want to commute, and I wanted more control over my time. So I may be the only person who's ever started a startup because they wanted better work-life balance, but I don't know, we all come at this for our own reasons. So I started my first startup in 2009, right after my second son was born. And the first one was called Chopwood. I don't know if any of you follow Zen Buddhism at all. If you know the Zen koan, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And my name's Carrie Waters, so I thought it was very funny. And so our business plan was very much just chopping wood. It was how do we work in Santa Cruz and not go broke? So at the time, and this was, it doesn't feel like that long ago to me. It was your whole lifetime ago. But back then, we didn't have classes like this. We didn't have websites that told you how to be an entrepreneur. We didn't have endless pitch contests where you could go pitch what you were working on. It was really harder to figure out how to break in, how to build a startup, how to get funded, how to scale something. And so initially we were bootstrapping, which means we were selling services to paying clients. Starting out, it was our former employers who paid us to do, for example, to maintain custom software that they had, or to write back office systems for them, or we did a bunch of odd jobs. We did a corporate website for a VC firm. We did all sorts of weird jobs, some of them good, some of them bad. But it was very distracting in that, we were always very busy with client work to pay the bills. And the idea was that we were going to use the extra cycles and the profits from that to build our own products. But it slowed us down on building our products. And so we built, the core of our team was in DevOps, which, SRE, if you're familiar with that area. And so we had written a lot of back office software, and we wrote an application called OpsMill to manage your kind of cloud platform and monitor it. But we were slow in getting it to market, and on the day that we released our alpha, Amazon released something called OpsWorks that was exactly the feature set that we were developing but finished. So that kind of killed that idea. But there was a silver lining. So that startup, what I learned from that one, I learned a number of things. One was just how to run a business. And this is a big thing for all of you who are engineers, and including myself here. There are a lot of entrepreneurs out there. There are a lot of people who have ideas that want to build things. There are a lot of people who noodle on side projects. But having a startup, having a company means going out and selling things to people for more than it costs you to build them and making payroll. And there's a lot of running a startup that's just nuts and bolts, learning how to run a business. And I got a lot out of that first company. And we did have one really fun adventure. I got a call out of the blue. The other fun thing about startups, it becomes addictive. I was just talking to the other mentors about this before class, is that you have all these crazy adventures. It's amazing how life happens when you're just continuing on your path. So I literally got a call out of the blue from a guy that I had never worked with, but he had worked with one of the engineers on my team. And he said, listen, I know we've never met. We don't even have an NDA. This isn't professional at all, but I just took a job. I'm CTO at a company called Grindr. Do you know what Grindr is? And do you guys know what Grindr is? Yes, you all know what Grindr is. I said, yes, I know what Grindr is. And he said, well, you're not really in the target audience, but this was 2012 at this point. They had been out for a while. They were really growing. They were like hockey sticking in growth at the time. And they were going broke with growth, which is a thing that can happen. It can absolutely happen to you. So the story with Grindr is that it had been built by a contractor. The CEO was non-technical. He hired a contractor to write an app for him. And then he went out and he was the best salesman for it. He went out to bars in LA, and then he flew up to San Francisco and he started getting people to just download this app and start using it. And it was all network effects. It was all viral, and it took off. And then he offered a premium subscription. So it was a freemium model where it's free to use, but if you paid him $60 a year, which is a great recurring revenue, you could get it. Grindr was ad free, and you could see 300 men instead of 100 men. And believe it or not, 50% of his users paid him $60 a year just for those two features. So they were making a ton of cash, and they were growing really rapidly, but they were built on this elastic backend called Google App Engine, which is designed for very low traffic applications like your personal blog, but it's elastic. So like if you write one blog entry that goes viral or something, your site doesn't fall over. Well, it was not built for an application that was scaling well and rapidly. So when this guy Alex called, who was the new CTO, he said, look, I've worked with some of your engineers before. I know they're really great. We're paying $1 million a month in hosting charges. There are debt collectors knocking on the CEO's door. I hired contractors to come in and rewrite this thing. They rewrote it in Java. I don't know why. They launched this thing on Monday. We've been down for 5 days. We have no switching costs. We have competitors. We're losing customers. If you can get your guys on the phone in the next 2 hours, I will make it worth your while. And I said, okay, I think we can do that. And by the end of the day, we'd secured our first $1 million contract. And after that, I ended up being Grindr's VP of engineering for 2 years, which was a weird side journey, but a very interesting technical challenge. And we rewrote their backend in 3 months and migrated all their users with no downtime and got them back up and running and got their hosting charges down to $80K a month from $1 million a month. So that was really a good technical resume that got us a lot more business, and that business started to take off from there. And it really was totally accidental. It's weird how those things happen. But kind of fast forwarding, eventually I wound that contract down, and we really wanted to build products. So we rolled that company into my second startup, which was called Archetype. That one was a little bit of a cynical sideways bet. I partnered with a friend of mine who had successfully raised venture capital before, and I thought I was still intimidated by raising money from VCs, which you should never be intimidated about raising money from VCs. If you ever need a pep talk on that, I promise you, just text me, I will give you one. They're just people and they need you. But I was very intimidated by this. And so I partnered with a friend of mine who had raised a lot of money for his previous startup, and we did a mobile analytics company. He had already started raising some friends and family money based on his previous success, and we got into that, and I got about 6 months into it and realized, we're not building a product here, we're building a feature that's going to end up being part of iOS or Android soon, and we're never really going to be able to scale this the way we wanted. But we were able to get an exit. I sold it to a UK ed tech company called Vivo Rewards in 2014. That was another good lesson, and this one I think is actually a really good one for engineers to hear, because the reason I was able to sell that company is because it was good strategy for that customer. They were using it had very little to do with the product or the technology, right? It was because they had dominant market share in the UK for this software platform that they had that provided rewards to school children. They were using our software to do it. They wanted to expand into the US, and they were going to have to raise money to do it. And in order to raise money in the US, they needed to own their full stack, all of their IP, all of their technology. So it made sense for them to buy us and acquire a team of engineers who were already in the U.S., bring me in as a COO who could help them, turn it into a U.S.-based multinational and own all of their own software, even though it was software that was going to be commoditized pretty soon. So that was a great experience and a great lesson in the difference between being an entrepreneur and just being a product engineer, right? So that brings us up to, I worked for them for a year as their COO, and then I left, and this was early 2015, and this is when I'll talk more about here. Then I decided, okay, round 3, I'm ready now. This one, I decided to do the big passion project, and that was Buoy Labs. I decided I was ready to just go raise money, and I wanted to build hardware. I wanted to build consumer electronics in general. I care a lot about climate tech. I care a lot about the environment, and I wanted to build a product that would help with that problem, but was also very consumer and would ultimately be a big company. So I built a device, and I'll tell you a little bit about it, but I was going to show you the pitch deck, so we'll get into that. But it was a whole home water leak detection system that categorized all your water use in an app and would shut off your water when you had a leak. And eventually we went through a few iterations with customers and early pilots through insurance and water agencies, and we learned that what consumers really wanted was an end-to-end service that would bring a plumber to their house when there was a problem, because nobody knows a plumber. Most of you don't own houses yet, but one day you will, and it's a real pain to maintain them, and it's really hard to find good service people that you like, especially in the trades like plumbing. So eventually we iterated, we did so it was a device that would attach to your water main. You got all your info in an app, and it was bundled. It had a recurring revenue model, and it was bundled with a yearly home inspection by a plumber. So I sold that to Resideo, which is Honeywell Home, in 2019. I joined them, and I ran their water products division for about a year. And then I left there, and I've been working with startups ever since. So I will pause there. Any questions, or we'll get into pitch decks a little bit.
Why did you feel comfortable telling the CEO that he had a bad idea?
To be clear, I did not say you have a bad idea. That was, yeah.
How did you get up to that task, and then you made a convincing case? That's a big deal to tell your boss, who was excited about it, right?
Yeah. So I want to name, he's a great guy. He's still in the industry. Gopal Solanki. He had been the VP of engineering at NVIDIA, and then he left and became CEO of Magnum Semiconductor. And he was a fantastic mentor. He's the one who really taught me how to do market modeling, for example, top down and bottom up, and was very rigorous, was very data driven. And so I knew, and if I'm really candid with all of you here in this audience, it wasn't so much that I woke up one day and was like, I'm going to go show him this great idea, how smart I am. It was a little more fear-driven than that. Like, I saw us going down a path that did not look like it was going to be successful. And that was not going to reflect well on me or any of us who are working on that. So that I think this is a core thing about leadership, is if you're in any kind of leadership position, not speaking up is just as bad as speaking up sometimes. And you just have to figure out, you have to have a point of view and a position, and be willing to defend it, and also be willing to move off of it when new data comes in.
When you were doing your startup and you had your ideas, how did you go about getting validation and rediscovery, reaching out to customers, and the whole entire process?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. And I can already tell you're going to be a great entrepreneur because you even thought of that question, right? I think initially, the initial products I worked on, we weren't as good at that. Like we were very much like, oh, we have this great idea, and if we build it, they will come, and we were not as smart about. By the time I started Buoy, my third startup, the very first day I had the idea, I reached out to the person I knew who was most connected in that business, who was working in IoT, and said, have you seen anything like this? Do you think this is a good idea? You know, I immediately started talking to people like within an hour of having that idea. But so I'll talk about that one since you're asking. So that's the one where we did a better job with that. One of the things that I learned from another great mentor was you should be getting a lot of feedback before you ever build anything. So we did a lot with pen and paper, like literally going and talking to people who would agree to speak to us for an hour and say, hey, if you were managing your household water use, like imagine you had an app, you know, what would you want to do? Like, here's the home screen. What button would you, what do you want to see? What data do you want to know? And like more open-ended questions that way before we even designed any software. And the next thing we did is we got prototypes on houses as quickly as possible. So I remember I had the idea, it was April 2015, it was probably pretty early, you know, 3rd or 4th, something like that. By June, we had a device on my house, and by September, we had devices on 10 houses.
So the setup goes like in-person meetings, so they're just cold approaches or like warm intros, like deep into the network, like how does that work?
Yeah, well, so it depends on your application, right? In my case, in the one I was building, it was for homeowners, right? And I owned a home. So I initially went to friends and family. And I started in my local community, which was good and bad, by the way. So, and this will come out in the pitch deck when we look at it. At the time, I lived in Santa Cruz, California, which is, you know, Central Coast on the beach. California has long had water issues. So we would go through these drought cycles where every 5 to 10 years there'd be a drought year and there would be restrictions on watering. Like you couldn't, you know, water your lawns except on certain days and things like that. And there were penalty water bills when you went over. So what actually caused me to start the company was that I had a broken sprinkler in my backyard underneath some bushes that I didn't notice for a few days, and I got a $1,700 water bill. And I was like, okay, never again, right? But so I started out by talking to my local community, and those first 10 devices were all on houses in Santa Cruz. What I learned, and that was good, and we did a good job on that, but when I tried to scale nationally and I went and talked to more places, I really thought, you know, I knew California was the tip of the spear on water issues, but I thought the rest of the country was going to be moving that way faster because of aging infrastructure and some other reasons. And I was just wrong. Like when I went out to the Midwest, they were like, we have abundant water here. I don't even know what my water bill is. It's so cheap, I have no idea. So selling a product based on saving water was not going to be the way to scale. And that just took, and this is why, and actually this is a really deep question you're asking, because the way that I was able to scale that company, I think, is repeatable in that it was all B2B. You know, I built strategic partnerships with other companies that also gave me access to pools of customers that would do pilots with me. So I did pilots with water agencies that would provide like 25 homes at a time. I partnered with Delta Faucet Company, and they're headquartered in Indianapolis, so I had all these Midwestern companies, or Midwestern customers. I partnered with USAA Homeowners Insurance, and we got on a lot of homes in San Antonio and Austin. And then we really learned, you know, kind of all the regional differences from there. So I think that is, I actually can't think of another model. Maybe some of the other mentors in the room can, you know, with few exceptions, even if you're building something consumer, which at the end of the day, my device was a smart home device. It was consumer facing. I don't know how to do that without strategic partnerships. Yeah.
How do you know when you have enough validation to start building? You have like, what's your take on that?
I think you should always be building. You should be building and validating at the same time. You know, you'll just know, like in my case, you know, we were trying to get a device on my house as quickly as possible. The harder thing was knowing when we were ready to go from just my house to it being like not so much of a basket case that we could put it on someone else's house, you know. And you'll know when that point is. But yeah, you want to build as quickly as possible because you'll be really shocked. I mean, all the things that look, you're probably all wise enough to know this already, like a lot of things that look so simple and so obvious in retrospect did not feel that way at the time. You know, for example, that device we got on my house in the first few months, we literally took a utility grade flow meter, like the same kind of water meter the utility uses to send you your water bill, and we did a little 3D printed custom enclosure for the top and used a Raspberry Pi to gather the flow data, and then it was Wi-Fi connected. And that was great, and we were getting great data in an app. And the moment we got it on like the third or fourth house, we were like, okay, I looked at my water data for 3 days, and that was kind of interesting, but I don't care anymore because I kind of know how much I'm using for my shower. So when you tell me I've got a leak, like do something, shut the water off, do something. And it was like, oh, okay. So we had to do a redesign to add a shutoff valve, which, seems very obvious now, but it wasn't until then.
I was wondering, going back to like the 3D TV situation, like how do you tell the difference between a gimmick and like a long-term like structural shift in people's preferences?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I have a good answer to that, except I have two answers to that. One is behavior change. One is a nerdy answer. Behavior change is very, very hard. Anything where you're asking consumers to change their behavior for it to work is you should already be suspicious about whether it's going to succeed or not. So asking people to keep 3D glasses in their home when most people don't know where the remote is right now, was kind of I felt like I was on solid ground to say that that was a stretch, right? The less nerdy answer, but I think really true, is if you want to be great at building products, you have to kind of lead an interesting life. You can't just sit at work all the time. It's the people who make unlikely connections across domains that come up with the really great ideas. And so a lot of it is just living in the world and developing some taste and developing some friendships with people with taste, and then you develop a discerning eye. It's like learning to appreciate art.
You mentioned for the CTO of Grindr, they had debt collectors knocking at their door. Has that ever happened to you? What are some signs that your business might be going under?
Oh, that's a great question. So, no. I mean, I've never had debt collectors knocking at my door, but I have, done a cash advance on a personal credit card to make payroll. I don't know of any like honest to God, serious entrepreneur that hasn't, gotten a little close to the metal a couple times. And more pointedly, I wouldn't trust one, because they haven't tried hard enough. But so there, and you become a jailhouse lawyer on really strange things if you do startups for long enough. You really do. Like at this point, I've issued founder stock so many times. I'm a really good person to talk to about how you should split up your co-founder stock or not. It's this weird esoteric skill that. Also, there's this phrase called zone of insolvency that I saw a couple of people who I know have had companies perk up. You learn these things. Yeah. This is a very important legal term that you'll become familiar with if you do a startup. Once you're down to below 60, 90 days worth of cash based on your current expenses and all that, your legal obligations shift from the shareholders to the debt holders in your company. And so you become really familiar, and you shouldn't be signing new contracts and saying you're going to deliver things if you don't know that you're going to have the cash to do it. I think that a lot of it comes down to constructing your company. First of all, you'll have a session, I think, on corporate form. I think Gordon's coming in for that one, right? Or maybe, you construct a legal entity, you just construct a corporation or an LLC that shields you from certain liabilities. You run that cleanly with a separate bank account, and then you make your bets. This goes for whether you're raising money from the outside or not. If you're either operating off your own capital in the beginning or friends and family capital, or at some point you might take money from the outside. At each point you should be thinking, what am I trying to prove? What's the next milestone I'm getting to? And it should be like, if I don't hit this, I'm winding this down, like for a long time, until it's a real operating business. And you should construct your experiments and your expenses to make sure you can hit that milestone without going broke.
Another way I've heard it said is, in a startup, your cash is your oxygen. And you need to treat it as such, as a precious resource, like you're on your way to the moon or something, and you have to make it with the oxygen that you have and treat it very miserly and figure out what you can do with no money and Essentially, it's okay to make small mistakes in a startup, but you can't make a big mistake and usually recover from it. And treating your cash as your oxygen and making sure you don't run out is one of those big mistakes you can't avoid.
A lot of it is paying yourself last, right?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Okay. I won't spend a lot of time on this because I know you're going to have sessions on each of the sections of the pitch deck. But when Eric asked me to do this, he told me what you guys were working on, which is awesome. And I really enjoyed seeing your pitches. It's exciting, and it's exciting to see how much progress you can make on a prototype in 1 week now. But I dug up an old pitch deck, and I arranged it in the order that you guys will be doing for your final pitch requirements. And I just had a couple of tidbits for you in case they're useful. I don't know where that's coming from, but so this is now a 6-year-old pitch deck, but all this stuff still holds today. So have they received their final pitch requirements?
We'll go into that in more detail later and give you a handout just like we did for the initial pitches with these are what's all going to be in it.
All right, well, you're getting a little preview. So in your deck, one of the things a pitch deck is not, and I say this with my full chest to all of my fellow engineers here, it's not all the details about the cool thing that you built. It's a good overview. It's a first date with an investor. You want to give them an overview, you want them to know what you do, know why it's important, and it's an amazing outcome if the end of your pitch they're like, that's really exciting, I'd like to meet with you and learn more about how all of that works. It's great if they're asking how, but it's bad if they're like, they understand all the details of the technical thing you built, but they're not sure if it's important yet, right?
To the business. So yeah, it's you may have a great widget that you've built that you're really proud of, but this is about explaining why that widget is going to support a very interesting business. It's a lot different.
Right, and so you'll start with the problem statement. So in my case, as I told you, I refined this a few times. I told you I started with a different problem statement, that it was about saving water, that it was water conservation. But what I landed on, this is from Series A time in 2019, is that every house leaks 10% of its water. It's $1 billion category for insurance. Insurance loses $1 billion per year in the U.S. to damage from water leaks, and that was the problem statement. The average insurance claim is $10,000. And so your format, and this is a classic format, is you start with the problem you're solving and then quickly go into what did you build to solve it. There's an argument sometimes that you might reverse those. And think about this. This is, I want to give you a pearl. It took me like 5 years to learn this. Think about who you're pitching to. Now, for purposes of this, I think you're generally thinking about this as a pitch deck that you might use with investors. A professional investor sees like sometimes a dozen pitches a day, right? And the one right before you could have been for a medical device, and the one before that was for something in a media company, and they're all over the place depending on the focus of the fund, and so it's a very high cognitive load for them. They've heard, you guys know this just from sitting through pitches from each other, right? By the time you get to number 8 or 9, it's hard to remember what happened in number 3. So be kind to the person you're pitching to, and just get to the point right out of the gate. What is it that you build? I personally like to see a first slide like this. This is what I'm building. It's hardware and an app and a service, so you can just start to orient your mind to what it is and what it does for you. So, here it started with the problem, expensive leaks. What did we do to fix it? We have a device that attaches to your water main, an app that allows you to monitor your water usage and gives you alerts when you have leaks, shuts off your water, and we'll call a plumber when you need one, right? I would always follow up with a second slide here, and when my talk track to this slide is that we can install in any environmental conditions and plumbing around the country. We can install indoors or outdoors, whether we're close to Wi-Fi or close to an outlet or not, because I talk about the battery and that kind of thing. But there was another reason I would put this slide up early. Does anyone know what it is? Anyone want to raise their hand? Why would I? Because it's real. It's not a paper tiger. It's not a paper tiger. You can see someone installing one. It's real. For those of you, if you're out pitching, by the time you're pitching institutional investors, you will have product and market, and you'll have people using it, because these are kind of metrics that you have to hit to be able to raise venture capital these days. But use all of that. Use it up front, and really, either your pitch deck will have 10 sections. Honestly, the most important one is traction. It's like, how much traction do you have? How far along are you? And it's just be honest about it. And there's ways to be honest and be excited about it no matter what stage. I've built a prototype. 10 of my friends have used it. 8 of them are still using it a week later. That's traction. That's believable. Don't make it up. Be specific and tell them where you are. But if you have product and field, especially if you have hardware, show that, because there's a huge difference. And if you go through this journey, you'll see it. There's an enormous difference in complexity, execution risk, everything between having product in field and not. And this is why, so I wanted to show you an alternate. Sometimes I would lead with the solution and then show the problem I'm solving afterwards. In this case, that often worked because I was solving a few different pain points for different audiences, and it was easier to get through that succinctly if I had already shown you what I was building first. Market size, you guys will have a whole class on this. I don't know if you're familiar. Have you all heard the term TAM, SAM, SOM? Total addressable market, serviceable addressable market, and share of market. This is a really powerful tool. I would encourage you, this is one of the things I learned from that mentor in semiconductor was being really rigorous about that exercise, doing it from the top down and the bottom up. And we won't get to that today, but it's really important. And if you do it well, it's mainly for you. And I think the reason investors like to see this slide, I know I like to see this slide, because the exact numbers don't matter. It shows me how you think about the market and how you're going to attack it. So, what you don't want to see, there is one bad way to do it. The bad way to do it is, this is a billion-dollar market, and if we can just get 1% of it, we'll be making, that's terrible. That doesn't tell me how you're going to get any customers. So
I've used that one a lot.
How's that working out for you?
I would say it's a gigantic market. All we have to do is slice off a tiny fraction of it. We have a very big business.
Yes. Yes. And how? And how are you going to do that? How are you going to get the first 10? That's much more credible and much more impressive to anyone you're pitching, is to explain how you're going to get the first 100 customers than how you're going to get, from $1 million to $1 billion, right? So here we focused on, at the time, we said, look, there are homes, and we're going to market, leak water damage affects all the homes in the country, but if we focus on homes that are in water-stressed areas first, where they have high water bills, we think they're going to be the early adopters. And then, of course, it's people who've already adopted smart home technology, and there's 10 million homes in that intersection. So that's how we talked about that. I was going to show you. So business model, at this point, this was our Series A pitch deck, so we had gone through a lot of experiments and we had arrived at this. Again, I would say if you're doing this one's important, and it's good to spend some time on it, because it also explains your go-to-market, how you're acquiring customers. So here I was explaining, by this point we had partnered with a home warranty company that had the plumber installer, and we were doing a revenue share with them for the service calls and for the recurring revenue. And I know we're running out of time, so I'll just go through the rest of this really quickly. Traction. So in my case, traction, again, so here you might notice if you read the words, and I don't know how many of you read words on slides, or if you just go straight to the pictures. I didn't actually name the insurance company we were partnered with, because I was prohibited by their legal team from naming them publicly. But they had been appearing on local news talking about this pilot program that they had. So I just used a screenshot from that. And,
which is public.
Which is public, and that was totally above board. The last kind of substantive piece of advice I want to give you, and this is really important too, is don't don't underestimate how small the world is, especially if you're pitching to people. More and more as you progress in your startup, you'll be pitching to people who are more focused in the area that you're focused in, and the industry can be really small. So I use this picture because the gentleman on the left, John Mike Cowell, was the head of innovation at USAA, and a lot of the people I was pitching, had done other business with companies that had partnered with USAA, and by showing that this guy was involved, it showed that it had reached a certain level of attention within the organization and that they were making a certain level of investment, right? And you never know. You don't have to speak to all those things all the time, but always assume, don't assume your audience is dumb. Assume they're as well informed as you are. And that's another reason why you should never shoot your credibility by exaggerating things. Just tell the truth and tell the truth about all the hard work you're doing and what you're learning, and people will be impressed by that. I think I'll leave the competitive stuff for later, but I'll leave it there. Any other questions?
I thought there was a lot going on in that last slide that is so helpful when you're a company that isn't well known yet. Carrie was really getting to this. If you can associate with a big name like USAA, it brings credibility, and then the USAA gets you on TV also. So that's really a great way to punch up and get and then that credibility flows to your business.
Were you the only person working on this deck, or was there like a full team that helped this deck along with you?
I think I was, I was mostly the deck person. I was like the 90% deck person. I probably had some graphic design help, here and there at times. Usually there ends up being, so I would say in the early stages, the CEO has to be the person who is the keeper of the flame, the keeper of the vision, and hopefully they're also the best person at selling the vision, so they usually end up being the keeper of the deck.
I would caution that the message and conveying it is very, in this deck, it's very straightforward. It's really clear. I would caution against over gamma-ing it. Like, gamma can come up with some crazy layouts. Some of it's, I think the more simple and the more you're like trying to convey the actual content and the message, try to stick with that versus the crazy graphics that it tries to generate, which look very AI and I think they'll hurt your credibility.
Okay, why don't we wrap up here? Everyone, thank Carrie for coming and talk to us. So all the mentors will be around for a few minutes after class, so feel free to come and talk to us. Some of us have office hours, mine are Thursday. I think you can look into whatever program you guys use, it's linked there. I will, again, reiterate, we've been doing product pitches, and as you see, there's quite a distance from making a product pitch to actually saying, here's what it could be as a business. And so we'll be working on this for the weeks to come. It is hard. If this was easy, these things would all be done. And there's lots of great products that are uncertain on how they'd be turning into a business. So there's lots to think about. So make sure you talk to the mentors and brainstorm on this, and we'll keep going for the rest of the semester here.
Also, Gabe, who visited our class a couple of weeks ago, is hosting Cafe Cursor March 7th. He's invited you all to go join. I think you get free coffee. You can co-work there. They've rented out the whole space. And there's also Cursor engineers who will be joining you guys. So I'll send this out in an announcement. Also, I shared this last week, but South by Southwest, which happens also along with Capital Factory, is hosting the Startup Call, I think March 12th. I sent out a form if y'all are interested. We're trying to get you guys passes. So fill that out if you do want to come. It's in the evening on March 12th. And yeah.
I would highly encourage you to go to that event. It's really cool.
There's like 100 different startups there.
And really, Capital Factory is the center of South by with the startups and the innovation and everything. So it's really worth coming down for it. I would sign up for that for sure.
And if you miss the attendance.
And who knows, you might meet your investor for your business.
Okay, we're wrapped here.
On campus about AI and robotics.
switch them up? They have like 14 layers. They have like 14 layers. The thing is, Michael has to be from my he has Jack. Either a warm intro or he actually has to like, I don't know. If we drop Michael, my idea was yeah, it would be either one, bring someone else on that is technical, or two, I mean, quite honestly, just deploy it. I mean, we've done this entire conversation about the whole, we'll just deploy it. Can we use it for traction? And training that relies on it. Once we get some traction at some point, I would be surprised if like why the entire time would like take a lead and try and solve it.
rely on a different counterpart when you're
There's always exceptions.
perspective.